Hello. Okay, so on this channel I've done gaming and I've done some like camping videos, and I've done one photography video which got like 10 views, but I just thought I'd do. I've recently put another roll through this camera. This is a film camera. I've recently put another roll through the OM2, and I thought I'd do a video on it because it's such a joy to shoot. It's really good. Absolutely one of the best film cameras I've used, and I've used 5 or 6. I've got quite a few, so we'll get right into it. This is the Olympus OM-2n, an upgrade to the OM2, which had problems with the, I believe, had problems with the electronics in this bit here, and the replacement electronics for the OM2 failed again, is what I've read. So if you have an OM2 that's not an N, there's a good chance the electronics will or have gone on it. So they made the OM-2n to sort of upgrade it. I don't know what N stands for, probably new or something like that. But it is. I mean, it's Japanese, so it could be something in Japanese. So if you know what that means, then do tell. This is a brilliant film camera. I've put quite a few rolls of film through it, and I've only developed 3 of them because developing nowadays is expensive, especially black and white, which I exclusively shoot in. Because it's just such a feel shooting in black and white. It's great. It gives you an experience. Anyone can shoot in color nowadays, but shooting in just black and white is something. It gives you something to think about. So I've got. Well, I did have some Ilford XP2 in here before. That's gone now. That's been sent off. So let's go over the features of it. It starts at 12. Hold on, let me just get my notes out because I put my notes on my phone and I've lost my. There we go. It starts out at 12 ISO. You see the ISO dial there. It starts out at 12 ISO and goes all the way up to 1600. You can't overcompensate to make it 3200 or 3 ISO. So if you've got a 3 ISO film or a 3200 ISO film, you're gonna have to push it or pull it, depending. I mean, shooting 3200 ISO film at 1600 is actually a good thing usually, because most 3200 films are 1600 or 80 or 800 or 1000 ISO films, which are easily pushed to 3200. It's a whole thing. The features is it's got 12 to 1600 ISO. You can compensate up to I think it goes up to 3 stops. Overexposure and 3 stops. No, 2 stops underexposed and 3 stops overexposed. So if you're in snow or whatever, or if you need a slightly darker picture, if you're a film camera person, you know exactly what to use these for. So it's got a beautiful action. If you listen when it's off, it goes at 1/60th of a second permanently. So if it's off, it's just a 1/60th of a second. You can't change that. So there you go. When it's on, it'll do up to 2 minutes where you press the button. So that's automatic. If you have it on manual, it'll go down to 1 second or bulb. So this is 1 second. This is 1/1000th of a second. So it'll do 2 minutes. It doesn't account for reciprocity failure, because it's not that clever, unfortunately, but it does 2 minutes of exposure, or 1/1000th of a second. So it would be nice to have 2/1000th of a second for really sunny days, because nowadays with global warming we're getting some incredibly sunny days in England, where there's just no clouds in the sky and the sun is just beating down. So even at 100 ISO, 16 f-stop and 1/1000th of a second, you're still overexposing your image slightly. So it'd be nice to have 2/1000th of a second, but back in the 70s, 1/1000th of a second was as much as you got, I think. There's not many cameras from the 70s that do over 1/1000th of a second. There might be some really professional SLRs that do that. So it's brilliant for sunny 16. You stick it on manual, put it to whatever ISO you've got. So say I've got 400 ISO film in here, I'd put it on 250 or 500 depending on how sunny it is, and then I just change the aperture. you usually come with this lens here, which is a 50mm f1.8, a very good lens, beautiful lens. I use that on, I've got an adapter, I use it on my DSLR, and it's really, really nice, really good soft bokeh on there. The speed selection for the shutter speed is unusual because it's right there on this ring here, as opposed to on a dial or, you know, whatever other cameras use. It's on a ring around the lens. The later cameras that Olympus brought out, such as the OM-2n, you need a adapter which goes in that hole there for manual. But this comes with auto and manual settings. You need the flash hot shoe is detachable, which I don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense to make a detachable hot shoe, because it only fits one hot shoe. So it's not that you have several different hot shoes that fit on the camera. So no idea why that's detachable. Someone cleverer than me will know. This is Olympus OM fit, so it'll take anything designed for Olympus up until they stopped making SLRs and started making DSLRs. They are brilliant lenses. Those Ricoh lenses are amazing. I've got a 75 to 150mm, which is really, when you open it up, I think it only opens up to 3.5, but it's still got some nice soft bokeh on it on 3.5. It's about this long as well, so it's not too bad. It's just a really nice camera. I'll show you some images. That I've used, that I've made using this camera. So I'll put them up now. There you go, there's some images. They're not brilliant. This camera had light leaks to begin with, which most of them will do because all the foam goes on them after 10-15 years. The foam starts to go, especially if, like this, it was just stored in someone's attic, covered in dust. This was dusty as hell when I got it. It was covered in grime. It was obviously just left somewhere in a garage or an attic or something. It was kind of disgusting, really. But it only cost me 50 quid for this and like 75 to 150mm Zuiko lens, and the case. And it's got a case for the lens, a case for the camera. It came with a couple, like a flash, and a couple rolls of film, which were useless because they were 20 years expired and probably stored in a warm house. So I didn't even bother with them. To load the camera is like any other camera on the planet. You pull up on the rewind knob and you open it up and you stick your film in there, drag it over there. I've got a roll of film. I did have a roll of film that I put somewhere. I'll just use this used roll of film. So you would put it there with the little nubbin sticking down. You drag it over, put it in there, and load it like that, and you would close it, put your slip of paper there so it reminds you what you're using. Brilliant. I think it's a genius camera. I really love this camera. It's got this auto check mode here. This little red LED lights up to tell you if the batteries are low. It takes 2 LR44s in this door here. Oh, it might be. Oh, it's one of these coin doors. It accepts a motor drive, so if somehow you can find a motor drive for these things that works. I've heard that a lot of them just don't work anymore because they're so complicated and they just sort of seize up. But it works with a motor drive, so you can get some nice action shots going, take a few at once. I think it goes up to 5 FPS, I believe. So it goes 5 frames per second, which is quite a lot for I think a lot of, I mean, even the more modern film cameras from the 90s, some of them only did, you know, 4, 3.5, 4. There's a few Nikons that do up to 7, I think. But 5 is sort of quite high for a motor drive of the time. As much as I've learned, I wasn't alive in the 70s. People who were alive in the 70s can tell me that this thing is, you know, actually only did 3.5 FPS, you know, whatever. It's absolutely, I just really love this camera. The reason I'm doing a video on this is because I want you to get one. If you're watching this video, go and find one of these cameras. They are like Leica SLRs. I know Leica did SLRs, has done SLRs, but this is like, it's so small, it's compact, it's heavy, it's a brick. It weighs 793 kilos with the 50mm Zuka lens and 800 and something with the longer lens. I've got a 300mm Tamron lens for this, which makes it weigh almost a kilogram. So it's not something you want to hang around your neck. It's definitely like a shoulder job or a hand. I was going to say hand job. That's a terrible idea. It's definitely, you know, hand hold it or put it on your shoulder, because it will absolutely wreck your neck over a day of shooting. If you go out for, you know, 5 or 6 hours shooting, which I regularly do, 5 or 6 hours of shooting, having this around your neck is a pain. It is so heavy. The only complaint is it's small, but it weighs a lot. So it's almost a kilogram. It has a self timer as well. I just remembered to tell you that. It's got a self timer. You cock the shutter, which is cocked, pull this down, and press that button, and then you press this little lever here, and it'll do a little bit of groaning, and then the groaning will slow down, and it'll take the picture. So I think you get 10 to 12 seconds before a picture's taken, so you've got plenty of time to run away from the tripod and get in the area of zoom focus. I've not tried this in the cold. It's not weatherproof, and the OM4 Ti is weatherproof, but this is not. However, I have been out. It's England. I live in England. I live in the northwest of England, so it's mental. The amount of rain we get is almost 270 days of rain a year or something. It's a good two-thirds of the year, 3/4 of the year that we get rain, even in the summer. You know, northwest of England, if you live here, you know we get 30 days of summer a year, and then it just rains forever. So, especially where I live, the moors catch the storms, and they just dump it all over my town. So, yeah, I wouldn't dunk it in water. I wouldn't take it out in a rainstorm on purpose. But if you're stuck in a rainstorm and you need to get home quickly, it will last. You just dry off when you get home, and it's fine, because it's well sealed. If you open these things up, there's no seals, but the tolerances are incredibly tight on these. They're made in Japan, so the Japanese know what they're doing when they're making stuff. It's not like it's made in China nowadays, or Taiwan, or Vietnam, where it's just like, you know, a bunch of like a Western CEO is like, you know, work harder, not smarter, and just it's absolutely a tank of a camera. I really love it. I'm going on now, but compared to the OM-10, if you compare it to the OM-10, which is like what's a kiddie camera? Really, it only does, without the manual adapter, it only does auto. So it's really for non-professionals. But this was like a professional studio camera back in the day. This is what professionals used. Some professionals used back in the day. If you didn't like Nikon or Canon or Fuji, Olympus was there, and they're damn good cameras. I don't see enough people talking about Olympus cameras. You look on YouTube for Olympus camera reviews, and it's like a few guys with like a couple thousand views, and ladies, a few guys and ladies with a couple thousand views, and it's just, there's no, you get like the Canon AE1 program, or the Nikon F, or the Nikon F2, or the Nikon FM, it's actually a really good camera compared to the OM-10. Definitely, it's absolutely amazing. I've got a Ricoh KR10 Super, which misses focus, and you know, light leaks, and this thing light leaks, but I fixed that. But even after I fixed the Ricoh, it still light leaks. It still misses focus. The timing is slightly off. Like the shutter speeds aren't as quick as they say they are, or they're not as slow as they say they are. You can time it if you use a slow motion feature on your phone camera. You can easily tell how quick the actual shutter's going, and this thing is up to date. I never miss exposure with this. As you can see on the pictures, they're all very well exposed. They'll all be quite high grain because I only use 400 ISO film, because I live in England again, and it rains constantly. So you'll be out on a sunny day, and it'll suddenly become cloudy, and if you're stuck with, like, you know, Ektachrome or Ektar or Cinestill 50D, or I think, does it Cinestill 50? Does Cinestill do a 50? Anyway, if you're stuck with like a 50 or 100 ISO film, it sucks. So I almost only use 400 ISO because I'd rather overexpose my image than underexpose it. At least overexposure, you know, you get some nice bright highlights, and the sky isn't nice and dark, and it's horribly dark. Sorry, not nice and dark. I'm rambling on now. I just love this camera. It's such a lovely camera to use. If I could afford more film, I would use it every single day. I would use it instead of my digital camera. If I could, honestly, I would carry this instead of my digital camera because I just love the experience of using it. It's absolutely brilliant. If you forget to leave it on, the battery drains quite quickly though. Even with the lens cap on, the light meter's still active. So if you leave it on, I left it on for 3 days and the battery drained completely, which I think is something to do with the fact that that we only have LR44s now when this was designed for SR44s. I'm pretty sure the SR44 was a 1.6 volt battery and the LR44 is a 1.5 volt, so the light meter is going to be slightly off, like ever so slightly off. Oh, another thing about the light meter, when it's on auto, you've got here 1500, 250, 125, 60, 30, 15, eighth, quarter, half a second and a second. If you use the automatic mode, it'll go up to 2 minutes, which I already said. But if you use the automatic mode, I think, pretty sure I read, someone told me that it will use between shutter speeds. So if it's too bright, for 250 but too dark for 500, it will use 320th. If it's too bright for 100, if it's too bright for 60th but too dark for 120th, it will use an 80th of a second. So someone told me that once on Reddit. I don't know how accurate that is, but most people on Reddit, on the photography subreddits, don't lie because there's no point lying about film cameras. I don't see any point in lying about the features of a film camera. It doesn't make any sense. They're either misinformed. If they're misinformed, then yeah. But I don't. I think they're right. So yeah, I think that's everything about this camera. The viewfinder is massive. It's got like 100% coverage. I think it's like 98% coverage, which compared to my DSLR, which is 94% coverage, is massive. Absolutely huge. Yeah. You take the lens off using this button on the lens. By the way, you don't take the lens off using a button on the ring of the camera. So there's no button there to take the lens off. There is, however, a button there to take the lens off. It's also got focus and depth of field preview. So there's a button here which, as you can see, changes the aperture down, shuts the aperture down so you can see your depth of focus. Otherwise, you're just focusing at 1.8 all the time, which gives you absolutely precise measurements. The focusing screen is beautiful. It's got a sort of crosshatch ring and a inside prism, which when you line the two prisms up inside, you're in focus. So it's got two methods of focus, well, three methods of focusing, because you can tell whether something's in focus, or you can check the prism, or you can check the crosshatch. I mean, if you listen to this thing, it's beautiful. Like, you listen to it, it's absolutely gorgeous. The sound of the mirror slap is just brilliant. If you like a tactile approach, it really is just absolutely amazing. I've shown you pictures. I told you all about everything. Yeah, it's brilliant. And if you're on the street taking pictures of people, you're on the street doing street photography, and someone takes an ire to you taking a picture of them, and for some reason I've been physically assaulted quite a few times for taking pictures of people. It doesn't help I have a victim's face. Yeah, it's a brick. So if you need to defend yourself with this thing, I know, I'm just joking, but it really is. If you swung this thing, it would hurt someone. So that's another upside to it. Yeah, I've had a look inside this thing, and it is complicated. This is brass coated in not chrome. It might be nickel, but the metal on it is brass coated in something, nickel or chrome or something silver. So it's got a cloth shutter as well, which I like a cloth shutter. I believe there's less to go wrong with a cloth shutter. My Ricoh has a titanium shutter, and sometimes it sticks, but this cloth shutter is really nice. And it goes side to side, not up and down, so it decreases the size of the unit. My Ricoh is quite a bit taller than the Olympus because the shutter goes up and down rather than side to side. Yeah, it's got the flash plug. It's got a flash plug, and the hot shoe works as just with a modern day flash. Be careful with your voltages. You don't want to fry the camera or the flash, so obviously check your voltages and stuff like that. It will take a shutter release cable. I think it takes a cable, not an air cable. I don't know if they do the air cable for it. Or the rewind knob. It doesn't have a button on the bottom, so you can actually rewind this with a case on. So you don't. I recommend keeping a case on one of these things. A, because it looks slick, and B, it prevents light leaks, and C, if you drop the damn thing, the leather will make it bounce rather than shatter. So yeah, I think it's just wonderful. So it's just, you turn this here, you turn that there, and and then you can rewind. I think it's just a wonderful camera. I know this video's gone on for a while now, but it's just a brilliant camera. It really is. It really is. It's if you want a good camera that's cheap, because these things are unknown. Really, no one. I've looked on Reddit and YouTube, Facebook. No one has these things. Like, no one gives these things a chance. In my opinion, no one really cares. There's a subreddit called Zookaholics, which is brilliant, where about lenses, and very few people post about their cameras. But obviously, if you've got a Zuka lens, you've got an Olympus camera. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you like film cameras, or you're trying to get into film photography, I got this for £15 because it was broken. If you find an Olympus OM-2n, a common problem is you just jam some oil in this bit here. I used chain oil from a bike. You just put a little tiny dab with a toothpick in there, just wiggle it around a bit, and then I tapped it on the table. I give it a little whack on the table. The shutter went, and it worked perfectly. So the Olympus cameras, I really like them. I really like the Olympus cameras. They're a great great camera. Overlooked nowadays. Probably not back in the day. Back in the day, they were known as like a professional camera, but nowadays no one seems to use these, despite them being small, relatively lightweight, good features, massive viewfinder. Everyone seems to go for the Nikon F or the Canon AE1 program, because like grainy days he used a Canon AE1, and a Nikon F, and no one gives a chance to the Olympus, despite them being just really good cameras. So go find one of these. I think if you can get one of these refurbished for £300, or if you want to take your chances on eBay, they're between £20 and £50. The light seals. This is a disgusting hack. Never do this. Replace the light seals properly. But I replaced the light seals with a bit of duct tape there, and it worked perfectly. One last thing, it's got a detachable back. I don't know why, but you can take the back off. So thanks for watching. And yeah, see you later.